Okay, so here we are at apexart. We have two residents who have returned from their journeys. I'm going to forget Leardo's how to pronounce your last name.
Leardo.
Yes.
From Turin.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
your surname?
Your last name.
Ah, okay. Sciacoviello. Sciacoviello.
It's
very difficult. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And Sarah Hollars?
Hollars, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And Sarah is back from Thailand, and Leardo is here from Turin, Italy. Welcome. So the first question that I was going to ask you guys is, why do you think the person that selected you? What do you think they wanted you to get from the experience?
Oh, can you repeat, please?
Mm-hmm. What do you think they thought was the most important reason for you to come here?
Well, probably for know another culture, for meet people, for improve my English, because my English was so bad. No, really. And now I try to speak much better, I hope. And probably to leave Turin, Italy, and arrive in the other side of the world, and meet this different culture, eating here, know all of can I see for the street. Probably this was a very opportunity for me. Was very difficult for me to understand the situation, like in first impact, and so sure for she is a good idea to give this opportunity another person that don't know your country.
I think Laura France nominated me because, we went to undergrad together and we accidentally went to grad school together, and I think she could see me getting kind of left behind in New York in ways that, because I don't necessarily fit in, I'm not always trying to get to the situations that produce shows, and she could see me kind of slipping a little bit, and I think she could see my confidence slipping a little bit, and she thought that this would be a way to show me that she still believed in me and that I should keep going and I should keep experiencing and keep growing, instead of kind of shutting down in New York, which it seems really easy to kind of stop going out so much and kind of hole in and just talk about art all the time and not really remember that there's a whole world out there. So I think she was trying to remind me that there's a whole world out there.
It's a very interesting situation. When you come to New York, it's a big, giant, open world.
Yeah.
And when you are in New York and you're here and you're getting involved only with your own things, it can start to feel closed. So the purpose of the incoming and the outgoing residency, very much the same. Yeah?
Yeah.
So before you came, what were you nervous about?
Well, before I was very nervous because I don't know what can I do here. For me, it was difficult to think what was really this residency, and for me, I was nervous because I don't know if I can go in another city and speak another language, and I was nervous because probably I don't know if the people can understand me, because when you go in another city, another country, it's difficult if you don't speak very well the language, and the communication is important, no? And if you are alone, probably you are lost. And for me, it was very, very. I had some month very serious because I thought every day, oh my God, I don't know if I arrived, if I'm alone, if I lost from the city, and then I have New York, in my imagination was like a terrible city, dark city where people killed, and you can walk in because the guys go with the guns every day. In my head, I have this idea of New York City, and so for me, it was like, my God, probably it's interesting, but I don't know what can I do in this city.
The newspapers and the news sometimes will create
Yeah,
an
confusion.
image
Yeah,
of New York.
yeah, it's this, and probably more watching TV, the films in Italy, or probably in the world, but the film that I watching when I was a child or in the tent, it's a different reality of the reality situation of life here. Yeah, because I never saw difficult or strange situation for the street. The people are very friendly. The people are fantastic, incredible. Probably it's more. The people are more friendly here than in the other side of the world. I don't know why, because
Well, I will tell you that Sarah encountered the same kind of friendliness in Thailand. I think a lot has to do with the attitude you have when you go someplace. And hopefully we provide enough structure so you feel purpose. Yeah. And when you talk to people, you are coming from a good place.
yeah,
This is interesting because normally, for any of you that watch this, will know that we don't do two people at once. So this is a bit of an experiment today. So you guys can jump in anytime as well, as can you, Elizabeth. Okay. Give me an example of an expectation that you had before you went there that was not supported.
Well, so I studied abroad in Berlin for a semester and I had a horrible time, honestly. And it was a couple years ago, and so I was thinking Thailand was going to be a repeat of Berlin. I thought people were going to be terrible. And I'd read all the things about human trafficking going on there. I imagined like mass graves just everywhere. I thought people were going to be harsh and rude and they would hate me because I was American, and I went there and I think I wrote this in my blog, but I'd get lost, or I wouldn't even be lost, I'd just be reading the paper you guys gave me, and some grandmother would come up to me and ask me where I was going, and she would walk me to that place whether I needed to or not. It was amazing. I was just like, it was like the whole city was my family and they were all keeping an eye on me, and I couldn't get lost even if I wanted to because they were right there all the time, and I had no idea that was going to happen. I've never been in a culture where that was like that. So that's one expectation that fell right through.
So how much of it do you think really had to do with your attitude going to Thailand versus maybe when you went to Germany? What was different?
I think I expected the worst in Thailand and I expected the best in Germany. I thought it would be easier in Germany because I spoke the language a little bit, and I thought the culture was going to be so different in Germany, and then I thought the culture was going to be horrible in Thailand, and so it kind of reversed itself in a strange way, for me at least. When I went in guarded, I think that they were almost nicer to me because I looked a little terrified, and it seemed to work for me at least. I don't know.
One of the important aspects of our program is that we ask you not to make art, not to be in the head of being the observer as the artist, but to be the participant. Do you think that made a big difference in how you related to everything, all of the experiences that you had?
No, it's the same with what you write. Yeah. For for the first time, for me, it was difficult to understand this because it's very, for me, was very for me unusual in residency. But at the end, I understand what is the why you told this us, and it's it's the same that you write on your website or did you tell us, and probably it's very important this because if you don't work, if you don't do your work, or if you don't think at your work, you have your mind open and you can have different opportunity to see the other situation of the life here or where you stay, probably.
For me, it was kind of a huge relief because I felt like when I'm here, I feel like I need to be in my studio whether I want to or not, and I need to be working. And then going there, it was like, I didn't have a choice. I couldn't work, so I didn't have to worry about, I didn't have to feel guilty for not going to my studio. I didn't have to feel guilty for not doing things I thought I should be doing. And I could actually be a person again. It was incredible. I don't feel like I've felt like a person since undergrad probably, and it was I didn't realize I didn't feel that way until I stopped feeling that way. I don't know if that makes sense, but it kind of really opened my eyes to how much that filter really affects everything I do, and how I'm not sure if it's always the most positive way to enter a situation with that filter.
This is one of the things that we feel pretty strongly about, that the art world is a very closed place, and you can make each other feel good and like everybody is doing something. But the idea of the program here is largely to show you that making art is not about being in a small enclosed place, because so many of the things that you did, that you related to in a different way, that is a lot of what we think art should be. Yeah?
Yeah.
So you both had a nice experience, a bit of a vacation from making art that was a bit of a revelation.
It was hard to tell people about it though, because they'd ask me what this fellowship was, and I'd tell them that and I would tell them we're not allowed to make work, and they would be, oh, that sounds horrible, I can't. And it was kind of, after a while, it got really annoying because it almost felt like these other people that I met, or other artists, were wearing this as a badge of honor. Making work was a badge of honor, but experiencing was not valid. It was so strange, and I don't want to be like that anymore. It was kind of interesting getting to tell people that, but it was hard to explain this fellowship to them. It was really hard.
That does happen on occasion. By the same token, we find to our fellows and the people that we can spend more time talking to, that it makes a lot of sense.
It does, yeah.
So you were talking about feeling guarded.
Mm-hmm.
Leardo had some interesting situations here. One was when you went to the courthouse.
To the
Courthouse.
courthouse. Oh, I don't remember.
Where the man did not like you.
Okay, yeah. So, yes, it was probably the only bad situation, yeah. And it was very hard because I remember it was the second or third day. And so I'm just arrived here. And for me, it was all happy, the people are friendly, it was interesting to move it in the city. No? But when I go on the site, I meet this person very terrible because I asked him information and he worked is this he stay in the text and index information, and when I ask where is the direction for go to looking for his room, he told me, okay, I don't understand you spoke very bad, you need a translator, and so go up and ask because I can understand you. Go up, and so it for me was very hard, and so I thought, well, probably I don't speak very well, but you, this is your work, and you can tell me it's like an animal, no? And wow, for me it was very hard day because it's difficult when you stay in another country and you know that the people don't understand you. But at the end I thought, well, this is another experience. It's nice, and so.
Let me explain. One of the activities that our fellows in New York will go to is to attend a court proceeding at the federal courthouse. And Leardo went down and he got a taste of the New York, the New York police, the New York authoritarian. And it's interesting because it's a place where they deal with a lot of people that they aren't initially friendly to because it isn't always a friendly place. Both of you had a certain dose of religion in other countries. You went to different religious activities in a way here. You went to the church in Harlem.
Wow, fantastic experience.
Yeah,
probably the better situation, the better day because in Harlem I stayed in the church and then in our Harlem apartment. So I'm sorry. What is the question?
No, I was just saying that you both experienced religions in other cultures, and I wonder how you came away. What your relationship was to seeing the religion, if there was one.
Well, I arrived from Italy. In Italy, we have a very strong background from the religion because we have the Papa, the Vaticano, Rome, and so in our culture, it's inside the Catholic religion, no? And if you want or don't want, you are conditioned from this religion in your life. The Pope, the religion, it's like the politics in Italy, no? And when I stay in this church, Baptist church, before to entry for me was like I thought, oh, it's boring. I don't like to go in a church, to enter in a church, because in Italy, when I go, I enter only for visit the church because I like to visit artistic, what is a building, what they have in. But I thought, okay, I go to enter this experience, and wow, when I stay in, was like a party. The people are very happy, and the people are dressed like really a festa party. The singers all times they move it, and it's incredible to tell you because there was like a band play and the prize. It's like the priest, it's like a rapper singer, no? And it's incredible, and was something of very. There was like an intensive energy, and all was like very incredible. And the prize called the people that had a birthday someday and give us like a present. That for me was another reality because in my church in Italy, in our church, the people all the time crying, the people all dressed dark. It's very, for me, it was very, I don't like it. Here, the people are very colorful and happy, and so.
Now, almost everyone at the church, which church was this? Was this the Abyssinian?
I think it's the Mount Zion Baptist.
Ah, okay, good.
Probably the best gospel in the New York City.
Oh, we have good.
Yeah, an experience of the gospel is incredible. It's like to stay in a film. It's fantastic.
Now, almost everyone there was African American, yes?
Yeah.
How many experiences have you had in a different cultural, racial situation? In Italy, do you deal with any African American people?
Well, no, in the church it's difficult. For the street, yeah, but it's very different because it's difficult to explain you. In Italy, or like probably in the south side of the Europe, the black people are not integrated like here.
African
Yeah,
mostly.
African.
Mhm.
Yeah. Probably the same situation like here. It's only in the North Europe, Belgium, London, this side. In Italy, the African people are like immigrants that not all, but a lot of these people are like poor, a different class, and they are like they do hard worker, and it's no, they are no integrity in our. For me, it's very absurd. It goes. It's strange. It's strange. I don't know. Probably the new generation, the second generation,
Right,
third
right,
generation, had a new life like you here. But now, no. If you go in a bank, you in Italy, you don't see a people that have a different color of the skin.
Did you feel a little bit of a shift in your sensibility?
Oh, sorry, what is she?
Mhm. When you go home,
Yeah.
will you look at the racial issue a little different, do you think?
Oh, well, probably yes. Probably yes, but I thought yet that there wasn't different because I lived when I was child in a neighbor where the people are African, and so for me was no problem. I lived in London, and so I lived in different neighborhoods in London, and probably the first uh, first situation that I live here in America, in New York City, is that all people are equal, in the same person. And for this, I love this city because you can walk in for the street and it's the same. It's no problem.
Well, interesting here in New York, anybody can come and they will get asked directions in a day or two. When somebody goes to a different culture where they clearly don't fit in, you don't have that anonymity.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it worked very well for you, that people seemed to be.
Yeah, it did, but then you know what the weird thing was? They had me go to Nana, which is the red light district of Bangkok, and it was. I'd never seen so many old white men just sitting there staring. It was like during a break period where they were not able to have sex, so they're drinking at a bar, staring at the sidewalk. And it just made me feel like, I wonder if people are thinking of me as part of this group of expatriates, because I met a couple. There are a lot of people that are expatriates from the U.S. or from Europe. A lot of white people there, and they're not always somebody I would want to be associated with. They often get the teachers that I met often get paid more than the Thai people that live there by the institutions, and I think that's something that happens a lot in Europe, where people coming from the West get paid more than the people locally, and that it just was weird. I had anonymity, but then at the same time I belonged to a group I wasn't sure I wanted to belong to. Of tourists and backpackers and expatriates that maybe weren't there for the same reason I was.
Thailand is a big country for expats, and there's a big expat community, and it's always interesting when folks leave a certain place and then congregate in another. So we'll get to a lighter topic than dealing with religion and difficulty. Food.
Oh, well, food.
Well, I want to let Sarah go first this time, only because we'll disrupt the order.
And did you want me to talk about the religion too part? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll do that first, and then I'll talk about food. I'm so used to religion being separated in the U.S., where you go to church on Sunday, or you do something separate from society. And in Bangkok, there were spirit houses everywhere, and spirit houses are things they have to build when you disturb the ground. You have to build a house for the spirit that lived on that ground so that they don't get mad at you. And then people put drinks there for the spirit, and they have all of this huge shrine that's just for that. And I'd go to eat breakfast, and the people in the restaurant would be praying at the shrine across the street that was built for the area on the that the restaurant was built on. So they'd be praying to the spirit, and probably several other, probably Buddha and whoever, everyone they wanted to pray to. But it was so nice to see people expressing themselves openly about something they cared about, and not feeling embarrassed, not feeling weird, nobody judging them, everybody just being really respectful of each other in a way that I don't think it happens here. And even when you say hi to people, if you're saying hi to somebody who's older, you always put your hands like this and kind of bow. It was almost like the same thing. It was almost the same experience where you're kind of praying to the person that you're talking to and showing them respect. And you put your hands together very slowly and carefully, very deliberately, and not just kind of slapping them. It was just so, I don't know, I feel like it gives them something that we don't have. But at the same time, I think it feels like a distraction.
Do you like the spirituality?
I did, but I wonder too if the spirituality wasn't a way to control them as well. Because these people are wildly poor, and they live off like a penny a day, American penny a day. And they go to these shrines, these Buddhist shrines, and they're covered in gold. And you pay to pray there most of the time. You have to donate, or you have to buy the incense sticks to burn, and then you have to pay the monk to give them alms. So they're using their money on these shrines, and I just wonder if it's not a distraction from their real life too at the same time. Because it seems like a way to control them so that they don't realize how miserable they are sometimes.
Religion has served that function for many years.
But the food was amazing.
Especially in Thailand.
Yeah, I don't even like food most of the time, and I loved it so much. Just having, they just make the food for you right there. They just stir fry it while you were sitting there, and all of the food was coming directly from, so the butcher gets their meat from the farm. There's no middleman, there's no Safeway packing up your food for you. So it just comes from the farm 2 days ago, and you're eating a pig that was alive 2 days ago. And it's really delicious. It was so good. But,
and fried chicken legs?
I ate them. They're a lot of work. You have to pull the knuckles out every time. I think they eat it because it has collagen in it, and it's supposed to make your varicose veins or your legs look better. But I didn't think it was that.
There's nothing like a good chicken foot.
Yeah, it was okay. It just seemed like a lot of work.
So now we'll go food a little bit. You found interesting things to eat here?
Yeah, because I like to try what especially the American people usually eat. And when I was in Italy, I thought that you have a lot of fast food, the experience of the burger, cheeseburger, like this. I don't know this because
You
I
did burger research.
yeah, I go for a lot of very different situations to try different burger in fast food, in for the street, in a pub. Well, probably the fast food for me, I, I don't like it. It's crab. Sorry, but yeah. But I eat in Washington D.C. probably the best burger in my life. It's a fantastic in a pub when I go with Casey, and it's extremely good. Yeah, probably now I'm a fan of burger. Yeah, but really burger.
Did you ever make hamburgers at home?
Oh,
Not meatballs, but hamburgers. You know, hamburger.
yeah. If I do this in my home,
Yeah.
no, never I do this.
No?
No, because I tell you, I don't like to the idea to eat burger because I'm in Italy. I eat different meat, and I never try. I try only sometime in London, but I never go like in all fast food or for the street or for
Right.
very interesting. And it's difficult because in fast food I saw very scary situation where the people are very fat and eat for nothing, and it's also bad. Yes, I don't like this. And all burger is the same the different name of the fast food, but it's the same.
Interesting.
But yeah, but when you stay in a pub or in another place, probably you pay a little bit more, but you can understand that it's different. There is difference.
Because I know that Sarah is going to make Thai food.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I can't. I really. That cooking class was so much fun. It was really. But I have to wonder how much orchestration was at work and how much my skill was. I feel like the woman who was running the class was a very good orchestrator and she maybe made it feel a little easier than it actually was. But we'll find out.
So for many years as an artist, I would travel and I'd go to a biennial or a conference or something, and I would realize afterwards that I did not travel. I went to another country, but I did an art thing and I came home. I went maybe to the gallery, the museum, the restaurant, probably more than once, and then I came home. The most important aspect of the program is to make you rethink what it is you're doing with your work. A lot of the activities that you do connect you to people, non-art people. And we find that a lot of people tend to re-evaluate. They tend to think about what they are doing, whether it is still important to them, whether it is relevant, and often this experience wants to put a lot of new things into your work. Did you find that?
Yeah, well, I think the therapist was a big part of that. I kind of was mad at you guys, honestly. I didn't want to go. I was like, this is none of their business. Why am I doing? But once I went there, it was so. She had me work with clay, and we divide the things out into what was important to me, like work, art, and family, and starting to see the size of the different sections I had made and which was bigger, and it looked like my work was taking over my life. And my art was, the section I had for my art was very undeveloped. And then the section for my family was fine, but this, like, just reevaluating my priorities and realizing I don't need to be what I was thinking an artist has to be in New York, that I can be myself and I can be happier that way than trying to fit into something that doesn't actually work, that's not working, it's making me miserable, honestly.
You had quite a breakthrough.
Yeah, well, it was just, I knew it was happening before. I think that's why Laura also nominated me, because she could see it happening. But it was me trying to be somebody I'm not, me trying to network when I hate it, and me trying to apply to things that I don't actually really want. I just want them on my resume, and that's not how somebody should live. And just meeting these people. I went to Radabury, and there was this huge art festival, which I was thinking, oh, I'm not supposed to be here. But then when I went there, it was art that was being presented by the people that owned the shops. It wasn't art, it was a community project. It was something that was living, and these people really were excited about, and it wasn't removed the way I'm used to seeing. It was just like how I was talking about religion. The art became part of their lives instead of being separated to another room. And I think I want it to be more like that from now on.
We somehow like to elevate art to religion, to purpose, to kind of give us a strong anchor. And I think what is really important for an artist is to do just the opposite.
Yeah.
You know, the idea of being a member of the art club, which is very important to a lot of us. You want to feel part of something. The reality is that art is a very individual pursuit, and you have to define it for yourself and value it for yourself.
Yeah, well, it's exactly what I was saying about the expatriates. I was turning into an expatriate for the art world. Like, I was leaving the real world and joining this little club of people who had also left the real world, and just forgetting that I'm actually in another country. I should be experiencing, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what art was doing to me. It was making me an expatriate in New York City. It was not, I don't think it's a good way. And I totally agree with you. I think it does need to be individual, and it does need to be less exclusive, because I feel like the whole thing that I thought art should be before I left was that, oh, it has to be separate, it has to be put on this pedestal, I need to read my art forum every month, and it's just totally removing the people that I actually want to talk to about it. I can't talk to my friends that didn't go to art school about Gestalt theory, and it's ridiculous, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be integrated. Yeah.
Did you have a similar experience in thinking about, because you cannot work for 1 month?
Yeah. Yes, I don't work for 1 month, and probably was good because I think a lot about my situation now, and probably the best situation was when I stay with other people that they don't are artists. When I say like a voluntary, well, one of the situations was when I stay in a space to cooking with food not bone. It was very interesting because interesting and fun, because I stayed in a strange place. The place was from the church, but there wasn't a price or something. There was only people that lived for the street and volunteers, and we stay in a cook, and we cooking all the time. We pass for 2 hours to loud to cut the onions, and crying for the onions, and loud and speak with people, different people that probably some like me. It was the first time to stay in the same space, and so we exchanged our life. We spoke about no about art, but about life, difficult life, or funny life. It was very interesting to meet this person. It was interesting because you can see different reality, and I'm looking for this in my job, and so the experience. Sure, whenever I return in Italy, probably had experience that to learn English, but it gave me an opportunity to think about the life. That's it.
So, what changes are you consciously considering or making as a result of having been away?
Oh, sorry, can you repeat, please?
What changes
Yeah.
are going to be permanent? What do you want to keep doing when you return home?
Okay. Well, sure, the first step is to reflect about this experience because I understand that this stop with my job. Was important because I need to change something in my life. Um, sure, I'll need to restart work because I need to do something, and I need this for my soul, for my hand, for all. But probably I understand that I like to have this experience, not only in New York City, but I travel for a different site in the world. But I like to try again this experience, to go in another place, meet people, and know the history of the different people, because this is part of my work. I like to do this in Turin, but probably I need to open this in the other side of the world, like New York City. Know different people, different history, and this is my job, and create something of this. Yeah.
One of the things that we say to people that is very important is that when you go home, there are the same kinds of activities at home. And you don't do them, but you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to do the jazz, the one you went up in Harlem to sit in that apartment and listen to jazz. I didn't even know that existed, but...
See, this is one of the main things that our program shows people, especially artists, because as artists, we think we are seeing so much. We think we are involved in everything. We're traveling around the world, and we're missing so much.
You're right, yeah.
Now, that will be your challenge. You can do that on your own. You can get the information from Elizabeth.
Yeah, I'm going, I think of my own apexart fellowship in New York now.
And you will keep your journals, and you can keep adding on for as long as you like, from home, from any place. But I also wanted to ask you how you think your work will change. Yeah?
I realized that I need to make sure that I have a job that aligns with my value system, and make sure that that's feeding me and not draining me. And I think right now it's not the right balance right now for me. So that changed, and I need to think about if I need to even be in New York anymore, because just going to Bangkok and seeing all the people that are actually working artists or working people, and they don't have there's not an intensely strong contemporary art community there, and in a way I felt kind of jealous of them, because without that structure, you can do anything. You can be anyone, and you don't have to worry about it as much as you do here, because here you always have to talk about what you're doing. Oh, when's the last time you went to your studio? Oh, who did you do a studio visit with last week? And so I feel like maybe I need to think about it, but I'm pretty sure I need to change locales and see what's wrong with working somewhere else and maybe not showing as much, and is that something that would be making my work better and my life better? And so
one of the other things that we hope people will do from the program, often your work is over here and your life is over here.
Yeah.
And we talk to a lot of people about bringing it together. And it gets very confusing because you don't look like the same artist. And we say to people after the program, when you go home or when you come home, you go through a depression.
Sure.
Because you have all of this energy and all of these new thoughts, and then you get home and it's the same place. And people, they want to hear about your experience for about 30 seconds. Then they want to go back to their comfort level. And the challenge for you is not to slide back into that comfort level.
That's
You know?
gonna be hard though. Yeah, it is really, because I know when you're talking about that depression, I totally understand, because when I came back, I've never thought of New York as quiet in a million years. It felt so silent when I got back here, and it felt so, everybody's wearing dark colors, and there's like, it was crazy, and it just made me feel like everything just got sucked out of the world right there when I came back. It was very strange.
So what do? There are two things that people almost universally enjoy doing. One is the volunteer work, because many artists have never done volunteer work, and they don't realize it makes you feel good to do something for somebody else, because as an artist we always feel like we have not gotten what we think we should get, and therefore we don't really have a lot to give to other people. But I think this changes for people a lot. It also makes you not feel like there's the other world in the art world, and that people outside of the art world are not worth talking to as much or spending time. But the reality is, there are so many interesting creative people outside that it's very important. The other is going to a therapist.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you had ever been to a therapist before.
I had never even thought of it. Yeah.
And
No, never.
And what we found is that the pathology of creative people is fairly similar. And some cultures encourage talking. If you're in South America, you probably have gone to a therapist. If you're in Eastern Europe and Asia, you probably have not. But the idea of being able to talk about things to somebody in a non-judgmental way, when we've got all of these kinds of things, these value questions that we're talking about, the idea of using the clay, my significant other is a therapist. I think that is a really nice idea, and I'm going to tell her about it. And
I think she did that because I was so uncomfortable the first visit that I you know, when your body kind of closes in on itself, I think she could see me doing that. I think that's the only way, because when you're moving your hands, you actually, I don't know, I feel more comfortable talking to somebody when my hands are, yeah, less like I'm staring at somebody and more like I'm just talking to a friend. I don't know.
Do you happen to have a question for the other person? Is there anything that you would wonder about that Sarah experienced in a similar way, or Leonardo for you?
Well, I like to ask you if you, in your experience in fellowship, you sometimes you think that you are alone through the street, because here I stay in a big city, metropolis. It's a fantastic city, but it's very intensive schedule, and you run for go in an appointment, in order you have opportunity to meet people, like when you go to do volunteer, But at the end, you arrive at home and you are alone, no?
Well, I think that's an authentic New York experience. I feel alone most of the time in New York, but when I was in Bangkok, I never felt alone for 1 minute. I walked to my apartment and the lady downstairs would come and say hi to me as I'm walking up the stairs, and I'd see her like having breakfast the next morning. I think she owns the apartment building. I couldn't tell. And then I walk outside and there'd be just people going by on scooters that would talk to you, and I never felt alone there, but I do feel alone all the time here. I think your feeling alone is valid here. Yeah.
I'm surprised that you didn't feel it at some point, because one of the things that we say to our fellows is that at different times you will feel lonely, depressed, and bored.
I never felt any. I felt depressed after the first therapy session because I think it was such a. I come from Southern Oregon, from a family that doesn't even hug, and so this was jarring to me. The therapy session was really jarring. I think it was the most jarring thing I've ever done in my life. And so afterwards, the first session, I just felt miserable. But that's the only time. And I don't understand why I felt miserable. I think I felt embarrassed or something. She would ask me why I felt embarrassed, and then we'd have to keep talking about it. But I don't know why I felt that way, but that was the only time. I think that culture is because it's so hot and everybody's outside all the time, and everybody's so comfortable with talking to each other that I never ever felt alone. Not even for a second.
We tend not to risk being vulnerable so much, especially New York, and especially in the arts. And the more vulnerable you can be, the more you can let things in and be affected by them. I think it's a much more positive thing than building up the resistance so you don't get affected. And I think also on the fellowship, because you are so well taken care of, people are concerned, that in a way you can relax more that way.
Yeah, the list made me feel so brave, honestly. I felt, so I went, for the first a couple days, I had to go get a ferry, and they're always trying to sell you this other ferry that's like $30 more, and they take you someplace you really didn't want to go in the first place. And if I didn't have that list, I wouldn't have been able to say, no, I need the ferry. I have to go on the ferry. And then they would be like, okay, never mind, just go that way. But if I didn't have that list, that list made me very brave. It made me feel very confident because I knew where I was going. I knew exactly what I had to do, and I could tell people no without feeling bad because I could just blame it on you guys. Say, no, Apex told me I had to do this, and I need to do that more in my real life. I need to pretend like I have that list all the time where I can actually tell people no and be more confident.
I think the program empowers people because you do so much alone. And even though sometimes it is uncomfortable, it makes you strong.
Yeah. Probably, I don't understand very well. You think that people think it's so strong, the program?
When you do things alone, you have to be strong.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure.
And sometimes it can feel lonely, but after the program, you feel more comfortable.
Oh yeah, sure.
To go someplace alone.
Yeah.
To do things you wouldn't do.
Yeah. The first time for me was very difficult because the first day we arrived, for me was difficult to arrive and go in the first site because I'm alone. I don't know nothing, and so I thought my God, what can I do here? My English is so bad, I can understand. I don't know what can I do, and but I entry, and when you stay in this place, in an old place, you try to speak with the people. You are more hard, no, and so you try to have a communication with people. It's natural to try this because because probably you need to speak with the people. You need to know what is the reality of the site.
Mm-hmm.
And every time that you go in the first appointment, in a second, and you are more comfortable. And so at the end, it's normal. It's normal to go alone. Yeah, I like this. I like. The first time for me was very difficult to moving. I thought, my God, I'm lost for the street. I don't know where is this side. It's impossible to understand when the people spoke about this book or about this. But at the end, no, it's not difficult. Probably it's interesting to go alone to see to watching a movie. It's nice. It's nice.
You did that a bunch.
Yeah, I stood up for the king every time.
Interesting.
That
huh?
was so weird, just having to. I felt like I was in school again where you do the Pledge of Allegiance. Before, it just felt. It was so weird. But it was.
They like him.
I don't think they
I
like
don't know.
him. I don't think they like him. I think they're scared to death of talking about him.
Yeah, that they are.
So I went to the princess. The princess has this museum. His daughter has a museum where she puts her Instagram feed up every couple months and talks about where she's been.
I was going to say, our franchise program is just about to begin. You should propose a show and she should be one of the
I don't
artists.
think she can. I don't
know, but it would be an interesting
I'm allowed
thing.
to ask. It was.
You're allowed to ask.
I don't know if anybody's allowed to ask her. Is the thing. So I loved her. I thought she was the most fascinating person, and I'd go to tell somebody, a Thai person, and be like, "Did you see the princess's show?" And they would just stop talking.
Interesting, yeah.
They don't want to say anything good or bad about any of the royalty or their animals or. And the prime minister, he did this weird thing on television on New Year's where he did like the State of the Union address and he was saying that he talked too much this year and he's going to talk less next year and everybody else should talk less next year, and it was like,
I read that.
okay,
I
feel like that's directed at me because they did have English subtitles, so I don't know if it was directed to Thai people so much. I feel like that was
Interesting.
It's weird.
Okay, so we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel. I have one more question for each of you. What is either a person or a situation that really made a big impression on you? Do you understand?
The best situation?
A person or a situation or a combination.
Opposite situation.
The first thing you tell somebody when you go home.
Well, I don't know if I understand very well. The opposite situation?
A person or a situation that impacted
Okay,
you or
yeah.
influences you.
Okay, a person, probably Yana. She was very, very happiness. She was a very fun person, and I remember that when I meet her for the first time, she arrived at run, and because she was late about 5 minutes, and she was like a smile, and so from there was wow, she's nice because she smiled every time, and it was funny to do with her like some schedule, and so I probably because I need sometimes a help or to speak with some friends, and well, yeah, sure. But a situation that for me the best situation that when I returned in Italy, I remember probably is the jazz session in his house. For me, was something very very extraordinary. This and the gospel too. Oh, it's very incredible because when I arrived in this building, this building was very very strange because it's no was nice, but it was like entry in a film of David Lynch, very dark. And so when I entered, I think, oh my God, I'm staying in Harlem, but what is this? And go up. And when I enter in an apartment, a small apartment, the people play jazz in a cooking room, and it was incredible. The sound was, yeah, fantastic.
I think the biggest impression or the biggest impact on me was I was really lost. I was trying to find the bus to the flower market, and I think the directions were a little off. And I sat down on this bench, and I just felt like crying a little bit. And these two girls that were about my age came up to me and asked me if I was lost. And they spoke perfect English, even though they'd never been to America. They had American accents, but I think their teacher must have been very good. And they helped me get a cab to the place, and I just felt like usually when tourists ask me where something is, I either don't talk to them or I kind of like say no, I'm sorry, because I just don't want to give them, I don't want to deal with it most of the time, and I think that's kind of nasty of me. I didn't realize like how lonely, or how, not lonely, but how disoriented you can feel in another place, and how that somebody helping you, how much of a difference that makes in your day. I think that had a huge impact on me because I feel like I should do that more often when I'm not sure how well it works in New York, but I think I could try it a couple times.
I walk up to people when they're looking at a map or something
Really?
and ask them, especially if I'm walking bocce, because I'm then not a male without, but yeah, I do that.
I think I'm gonna do that more. I just was a little worried about doing it in New York for a while because I felt like any engagement was a chance for something bad to go on.
No.
Well, no, I just have had really strange subway
No,
experiences, and so I think I just kind of shut down, and now I'm ready to open back up.
Yeah, well, you can say something to somebody and not have it turn into a longer conversation.
Yeah.
You know, just a quick stranger on the train thing, which is also a very interesting thing when you meet people that you will never see again. I think you alluded to that maybe, or one of you in your blog, when you see people that you don't know, and you can, even a therapist, and you can talk to them because you know that you will not see them again, and they do not know people that you know, and that's always nice when you're away.
Yeah. It's kind of sad too at the same time, because some of those people are really amazing, and I wish you could keep talking to them. Yeah.
Nice experience.
Yeah.
So we recommend that you write to some of the people that made an impression on you. It's always good to give them one picture, maybe even one picture of your work, but don't, just because this way they see what you're doing and remember you, and it's a nice connection. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions for us? Anything? Otherwise, we're pretty much we're gonna go to lunch.
No, thank you so much for
Thank you
letting
so
us
much
be
for
part
this
of
experience. Very
Yeah.
intensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's our
Thank
pleasure.
you. Thank you all.